plenty of rest after last night's 1 hour delay and your work post game into the early hours of this morning. First and foremost, your overall, as if I'm just teeing you up, your reaction to yesterday's victory for the Eagles.
Well, it was really the tale of two halves, right? I think you saw an offense that was ready to get rolling. I mean, they scored touchdowns on 3 consecutive drives. Obviously, it had a ominous start with Ben Van Sumeren suffering an injury on the opening kickoff, and then you see the Jalen Carter incident, and it would be, I mean, things started to spiral a little bit defensively, and you saw the team miss him very much in the middle of that defense, and the Cowboys moved down the field. The Eagles answer the bell, and they counter the Cowboys with a score of their own. I thought Jalen Hurts really handled things in a magnificent way, and I thought the offense did a nice job, and the defense was sort of spiraling and reeling a bit, and it really wasn't until that lightning delay where you saw the defense start to benefit from that on both sides of the ball, I would say, and you didn't see any scoring in the second half. So that it was kind of an odd game, one of the more interesting ones that I've covered. I think I go back to the Washington game last season, where in Washington, that was also one that fits the criteria. But yeah, they were able to pull it out, and they got it done. And I thought at the end of the day, the Eagles did what they needed to do to win that game. And I thought Jalen Hurts, despite what the numbers may tell you, had a good game.
Andrew, tell us a little bit about your observations of Kevin Patullo's first game as offensive coordinator, because it started out with a bang, at least production-wise, and then it seemed to putter out. Sure. What were you observing?
Yeah, no, it sure did, John. And I think what I noticed was midfield utilization with Dallas Goedert. Jalen Hurts got the ball out of his hands quickly, and I remember talking to you guys yesterday about what I believe the Eagles would do offensively. Would they come out running, or would they take to the air a little bit and try to get Jalen Hurts into a rhythm? Or maybe that was in the pregame show, but I believe that they were going to try to get the ball out of his hands to really let him get into the flow of the game. And it's kind of hard to measure the offense compared to what it was last season, because the passing game was sort of reminiscent of it. But I did think that Jalen Hurts did a nice job of distributing the ball to different playmakers and getting other players involved last season that was really reliant on just a handful of players. But some of the running concepts I thought were a little bit different, but it was fast-paced. I thought it was a fast-paced offense. And then it almost looked like they took a conservative approach, both teams really, coming out of that extended break, and that you would like to see them, hit the ground running a little bit more than they did, I guess, in coming out of that break. But I thought Kevin Patullo in his debut, and Nick Sirianni said this as well, he thought he did a nice job. And the chemistry and the continuity there with Jalen Hurts, I thought, was evident. You didn't see the sputtering start like you saw last season with Kellen Moore, where there is that acclimation period.
Talk about two surprises from yesterday. One, Azeez Ojulari not dressing. That was surprise number one. Surprise number two, Drew Makuba did end up starting yesterday, which you have been expecting. But remember the report from Jeff McClain where Drew Makuba said Cindy Brown's getting the start. I'll be playing at points. So talk about those two surprises. One, Ojulari not playing. Two, Drew Makuba getting the start.
Yeah, well, I think that, and you talked about this yesterday, Andrew, I think that really underscores where the Eagles are in terms of their confidence level in the edge, in the depth at edge rusher behind the starters. To only have three, and yes, they elevated Patrick Johnson. He played sporadically on defense, but that's a really light group. And Ojulari doesn't play special teams, and Obo Okoronkwo, he has played it in his career, but that's not something that he does. But certainly you expect to see one of those two players who have logged meaningful snaps in the NFL be active for that game, and that they weren't. I think that tells you that where the Eagles, and in particularly Vic Fangio, lies with that group. And yeah, I thought that was kind of particularly interesting. But for Drew Makuba, I've always talked about his football intellect and his ability to process things quickly. Obviously, there was something that he did behind the scenes to instill confidence in the coaching staff that he could go out there and perform at a high level. Now, he was the Eagles safety when they were in nickel, and then in base it was Sidney Brown. I guess I kind of foresee that taking shape over the next several weeks until Makuba really just carves out the every down role. But the Eagles are in nickel most of the time, which means that Makuba, in all likelihood, will be the safety on the field opposite Reed Blankenship most of the time. Thought he did some nice things. He was around the ball a lot, and I had a nice collaboration there with Jihad Campbell on a tackle.
Oh, yeah.
And I talked to him for a while after the game, and it was he felt that he had a strong, I guess, a solid game, but he really emphasized that he liked the communication between him and Reed Blankenship and felt that was they were ironed out and there weren't any blown coverages in terms of the safety play.
What was that number, the percentage number with Jordan Davis? Andrew?
Jordan Davis played 87% of the snaps yesterday.
I got to tell you, Andrew, to me, I saw what I believe to be nonsense last night on social media. People saying, boy, what a bust. Jordan Davis, what a bust. I mean, he doing nothing. I was impressed last night, and I can't believe what was thrown, the curveball that was thrown to him and what he accomplished. But I know your notebook could have different notes, so I want to hear about it.
No, I thought, look, it's never easy when you lose your best defensive player. And in many ways, it was selfish, and you now put certain players into a flux, like Moro Ojima and Jordan Davis, players who probably weren't expecting to switch, and all of a sudden you're out there. But I thought, to your point, John, Jordan Davis did a nice job pushing the pocket. He probably should have wrapped up Dak Prescott on one play that he should have logged a sack, but good effort. He had some nice plays behind the line of scrimmage. Moro was a little bit more quiet, and I also thought they got a nice performance from Byron Young, who played 22 snaps, nearly had an interception, was in on that forced fumble. So it took every defensive tackle who was active, but I thought Jordan Davis, when you go back and I'm going to go back and watch today, I thought he had some standout moments. So I'm with you. I totally don't understand some of the vitriol that is spewed his way, especially coming off last night.
By the way, the only reason I knew anything about Byron Young is from coverage from one Andrew DiCecco.
Of course, that's why you got to follow his work at Andrew DiCecco on social media. Of course, read everything on Inside the Birds. Lastly, how big are the next 10 days for Adoree Jackson to try to keep his job, or to Jacorian Bennett to try to take over his job, or are you not going to overreact to the first week?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a great debut for Adoree Jackson. He struggled, but we talked about this yesterday morning, that the Cowboys, it would be malpractice if they didn't look to target Adoree Jackson wherever he was on the field. Had a really good conversation with him after the game, and he had a mindset where, next play. And as a veteran, you would expect that. But Vic Fangio also said that whoever the starter was going to be, that he was going to give them a quote-unquote long leash. We'll see how long that leash can be, because it doesn't get any easier going against the Kansas City Chiefs next week. But I'm not expecting a drastic change 2 weeks in. Now, that's not to say that mid-game or early in the game, if they're not getting what they are hoping to see from Adoree Jackson, that you might see a change there. But I thought it was really telling that Jacorian Bennett went in for a handful of plays right before the half and gave up a couple of catches, but I thought he had some solid coverage. And they go back to Adoree Jackson once he was cleared from concussion protocol. That kind of aligns with what Vic Fangio has said. He's not going to pull the plug that quickly on whoever he puts out there.
Andrew, I hope you got some rest, man. You were tremendous on social media. Well, you were great on social media.
You got a little more
night.
than us, then.
Yeah, a little bit more. But, of course, we'll be listening to you Unfiltered today as well. Great job yesterday
all
with
4
us.
hours
And
today, right?
Man, we're excited.
Yeah, all 4 hours. I gotta rest up for that.
Be ready for it.
Take a nap and drink some Celsius. All right, brother. We'll talk to you again next week.
Take care, guys. Have a great day.
There is Andrew DiCecco on the Comcast Business Hotline.
That's there were players last night that I went, I know that name because I.
Hey guys, Andrew Salciunas, host of Kincade and Salciunas. Just want to thank you for checking out all of our great videos that we have on our YouTube channel every single day. Make sure, if you can, please like and subscribe and check out all the videos that we have on our YouTube channel, whether it's for us, Kincade and Salciunas, of course, our midday show, as well as Unfiltered with Bill and Ricky.